You have seen me name Core. Now I'll show you how to actually run an agentic system design interview with it. Now, if you don't know what Core is, here's the link. Because I've been on both sides of the table. I've taken these interviews and I've given these interviews and I've built agentic platform. And here's the difference, what I learned. The difference between a pass and a fail almost never comes down to knowledge. I've seen people having enormous amount of knowledge, their resumes are killer. It comes down to how you carve that art. And let me walk you through it layer by layer with the production stories also that makes each one actually real for you.
Hi, I'm Ishwin Kaur. I build agentic AI systems in production, the kind that have to survive real users, not just look good in a demo. I've also sat on both sides of the interview table for agentic system design. Here it's going to be no hype, no gatekeeping, just the real building blocks with production experience and how to talk about them when it counts. Let's get into it.
The first thing that I do and I coach people about to do in agentic system design is bring up core in the first 2 minutes, at least in your head. I remember the pieces as core, clarify, orchestrate, remember, evaluate, and harden. And let me start by clarifying, and you can steer me towards whatever you want to go deep on. And that thing that's said out loud to interviewer does three things. It shows structure, it stops you from rambling, and it hands the interviewer the wheel so you can spend the hour on what they actually care about. And that's a senior signal because senior candidates do guide them. Now, the first part is clarify. Everyone skips that part and they loses the points here. Before you draw even a single box, clarify. Split it cleanly the way you do for a traditional system design. Functional and non-functional. What is functional? What intends? What's in the scope? What's explicitly out of the scope? Non-functional. What's the scale, request per minute, latency budget, and time to first token if it streams? Data sensitivity and PII, retention, evaluation, expectations, observability. This move that reads as senior. It raises cost, latency, and PII before they even have asked. So on a, let's say, payment style assistant, I'd anchor it out loud. Let's target 3 to 5 seconds, end to end, sub-seconds to first token, and let's design for approximately 10K requests per minute and treat everything as PII. And most candidates jump straight to architecture and lose the round right here. Now, orchestrate. How it decides and acts. The design is a router or a supervisor agent, plan and act or react, dispatching to specialists, tool calls into real systems, and the FSM versus framework decision. I have went deeper in the orchestration video right here. Go check that out for the depth of this step. But the thing that makes an interviewer lean in is showing you have enough to thought about, to reason about the orchestration behavior. Now, I would like to share one of my production stories with you quite early in my journey of building this enterprise AI. Before even knowing about the hard, strict guardrails, I watched an agent which made 23 sequential tool calls on one single prompt. And it wasn't a bug. The agent was just exploring a very slight variation of each response because I hadn't thought about how to taught it when to stop. And the user waited 40 seconds and we burned 10 times the tokens. Now I added a per turn tool call, which is 16, with a soft rejection when it hits that cap. And the system injects that tool call reached as a normal tool result. The agent can explain and gracefully degrade there instead of throwing any raw error that's not helpful to our customers. Those stories helps you see that you know the failure parts and not just the happy parts, and that's the distinction. Now, R stands for remember, which is about context and memory. Here comes with the session memory, the conversation history, personalization, and the real constraint. The context window isn't free or uniform. Now, models loses things in the middle, lost in the middle effect is there. And truncation bites in ways you won't expect because they are not spit out hard by any of the model. Here, one of the stories that I would like to share with you is about a judge which kept flagging good answers as ungrounded. Everyone blamed the model, but the real issue, what was that? We were cutting off the data at 512 characters. And the AI was right. But the evaluator literally couldn't see the proof. What is the fix? The fix is just by sending the most important data first. What looked like a dumb AI was actually just a basic context bug. And that signals that you have actually operated on one of these. You need to have those stories of production failures also. Now, E is about evaluate and harden, where most people actually fail and where you can actually win. Because almost no one brings the real evaluation and guardrails experience in the front. What it covers is the guardrails, PI, prompt injection, human in the loop, human above the loop, human on the loop for the high risk task, and evaluation, online and offline, both LLM as a judge. Then you can land some stories. Now, let me share a few of the stories with you. This is a P0 or a P1. A prompt change told the agent to explain your capabilities explicitly in the instructions. And it started leaking internal function names like fetch internal metadata in responses. Nobody cached it, a security team would have done. It became a P0, and that incident is why we need LLM as a judge with an injection check in real time. That is the highest priority, and you should never fail open. Fail open and fail close. The lesson: you cannot prompt your way to security. You need a separate layer that checks the output and the response before it ships. Another story is the subtle one. The judge said grounded when humans said it ungrounded in the evaluation. The agent said a user's profile was updated in March 15, and March 15 was in the context, but for a different case. Now that's an entity confusion. What can be fixed? It can be fixed by making the judge verify the facts are attributed to the right entity and not just being present. And I mentioned about fail open and fail close. When we launched the judge, it fail closed. Block anything ungrounded. In the week one, approximately 80% of perfectly good answers got blocked, and users got that I can't help with that, which is worse than no judge. We switched to fail open, serve, and log on uncertainty, with one exception of injection always block. The lesson is the judgment in a customer product. The cost of false rejection is higher than a false accept, except for the security reasons. Those three stories that I shared are exactly E layer. How to drive an R, that is the meta skill that we all need for system design or even for agentic system design. I'd say bring core up early, let the interviewer steer you. Clarify before even designing a single box. Go deep where they push and stay shallow or be in the breath where they don't. Keep it like light in the air. Always surface the trade-off, cost versus latency versus determinism or accuracy, and bring data and stories and not just diagrams to show your thinking and processing also. Remember, they are testing your judgment, thinking, designing, and not whether you have memorized an architecture or a structure or a framework. And that's what makes the distinction between the senior and the junior. Core isn't a script to recite, it's a way to not get lost and to think and to stay relevant, to let the interviewer find what they actually care about. The stories are what turn a structure actually into credibility and your thinking also. Next, I'll have two parts. One is to run full one end-to-end in the system design walkthroughs like we do in the interviews. And another is going deep down into orchestration and each of the layers that we have discussed so that you know the depth also of how to pursue them in an interview.
If you take one thing from this, I hope it makes the next interview or the next thing you build a little less intimidating. Tell me in the comment what is still hard or what you want covered next. That's where I get my best ideas. And like if it helped, subscribe for the rest of the series, and I'll see you in the next one.